Welcome to Real Time Review. I'm your host, Jesse Nussman. With me, as always, fellow Atlanta film critic Jason Evans.
Hey, buddy.
Jason, we are here to use our imaginations today because the new movie of the week is If, a family comedy about the magic of childhood.
Comedy? You sure it's a comedy?
I'm just reading off the IMDb.
What if I told you imaginary friends are real? And when their kids grow up, they're forgotten.
Are any of them scary?
Worse. Desperate.
So this is essentially the new movie that's directed by John Krasinski, aka
A Quiet Place.
Jim from The Office, who has kind of like moved up into the ranks of our actors turned directors, like he said, with A Quiet Place, and now is shifting from a kind of horror sci-fi mode to family-friendly movie about a like adoption agency for imaginary friends that places imaginary friends with children. That
I want to say that I can tell you're struggling a little bit to describe it, because one of the flaws of this film is that I frankly couldn't tell you exactly what it's about.
Yeah, like the best description I can come up with is just like an adoption agency for imaginary friends, and obviously it has like Ryan Reynolds in it.
Well,
but like, yeah, I agree.
It's really more about a girl struggling to come to terms with her parents having some problems,
right?
And she stumbles across these imaginary friends that she can see. It's never explained why she can see them and other people can't. The film there's just a lot missing from the story. This is a great example of a movie where there are some incredibly talented people involved in making the film. The cinematographer is Steven Spielberg's like personal cinematographer who's won multiple Oscars.
Right, Janusz Kaminski.
He did Saving Private Ryan. I mean,
he's done like
Schindler's
every
List.
Spielberg movie since Schindler's List.
He's one of the all-time greats. The score is by Michael Giacchino, who is another guy who's won multiple Oscars. Everyone involved in this film, and John Krasinski, I think, is a very talented filmmaker. Everyone involved in this film is really good at what they can do, and yet the film suffers because the script is just, I don't know who this movie's for. I don't think the script has any idea of what it's trying to say. The movie meanders all over the place, takes forever to get there. Like, if this is a movie for pre-teens, it's not a movie for teenagers and up. It's way too childish.
Right, we had this sort of weird conversation afterwards about kind of like, is this movie, I'm not a good barometer test for what
I've had
children
kids, you have not.
I have not, so you're better equipped for this, of like, is this movie too slow and maybe a little too serious in sections for children, but like it seems too cutesy, and like the internal mythology, which we'll kind of talk about here in a bit, is way too confusing for an adult audience. Like, the tone of it is basically one of those kids movies that like it's just for kids. It's not one of those where like parents are going to get like a couple little jokes thrown their way.
Well, see, I think it wanted to be Pixar. It wants to be Up. It wants to be Toy Story. It wants to be Inside Out. Inside Out. Sorry, not Inside Job. It wants to be one of those kind of films, but the story doesn't. The script isn't nearly smart enough, isn't insightful enough into the human condition to get there. And my point was, I don't know who the movie's for, because I think, as you say, a lot of the humor, a lot of what it's trying to do visually and the such, I'm going to go 8 to 10-year-old kind of age range, but it takes like a half hour for the silliness. It's not very funny, but for the silliness to start. So if you've got an 8-year-old, are they going to sit through a half hour of little girl trying to connect with her grandmother and getting over the loss of one of her parents and like
going to bodegas?
Yeah, I like it's
New York.
It's very heavy and frankly slow for a while. I don't think little kids are going to put up with that, and then suddenly it becomes a little more little kid friendly, but I think you've lost them by that point.
Yeah, I think my big problem for this movie as someone who's not viewing this through the eyes of the child is what you want from a movie like this is it in many ways, like, its theme is about kind of like, even as adults, being able to like reconnect with sort of your childhood innocence and childhood imagination. But this movie doesn't really have any of that kind of wonder or amazement. Just the like we said, the sort of rules about like who can see the imaginary friends, at what point do people not be able to see them, what do they have to do in order for people to be able to see them, how does this sort of adoption agency work?
The world building is not there.
Yes.
They have not defined the rules of their universe. They haven't defined how these imaginary characters impact their human versions of themselves. The movie spends a lot of time trying to get these imaginary characters back with their human counterparts. And sometimes, of course, it succeeds. I'm not giving anything away in the plot to say that they reconnect sometimes. But when they do, I didn't get a sense that the humans were fundamentally changed by it.
None of that sort of connection really makes sense. It all feels very kind of like...
That's the Pixar magic that this film doesn't have.
Right. You really feel like this kind of needed another sort of draft of a screenplay in order to sort of better nail down kind of some of the rules and ideas that it's playing around with.
I haven't looked to see if this was written prior to the strike, post-strike, or something like. My bet is it was probably written prior to the strike. I wonder if maybe it didn't get as much polishing, it didn't get as much work as had been hoped because of the strike.
Well, even getting to the imagination thing, I think one of the things I've been kind of making fun of about this movie with you since we saw it last night is like even the level of imagination in the designs of all of these, quote, imaginary friends, or ifs,
so
as
pedestrian.
they call it. It just sort of feels like they kind of ran out of ideas at a certain point and were just sort of like, I don't know, a banana? Can one be an ice cube in a glass of water?
Yeah, the ice cube, brilliantly played by Bradley Cooper. Like, it's literally an ice cube. Children have more imagination than that.
Right. This wants to be a movie about kind of like unlocking the potential of your imagination, being anything is possible, and sort of taking you on whatever direction your dreams go. But like it just feels so confined and sort of trapped inside of this very kind of narrow, bland lack of imagination.
Well, yeah, and the most imaginative thing they do in the entire film is the little girl lip syncs and dances to a 1980s Tina Turner song.
But even that scene,
that's like it's just.
And then of course we have the addition of Ryan Reynolds to the cast, who is not a person I particularly vibe with in movies. I tend to find Ryan Reynolds sort of like I'm commenting on the movie that I'm in, kind of taking me out.
Yeah, he's very fourth wall. Yeah.
This is a rare case of even Ryan Reynolds seems bored and annoyed by the movie he is in, and like gets hardly anything to do that is funny, and is just sort of kind of like a curmudgeon-y jerk the entire time in a way that kind of like I almost wish Krasinski was in that role instead of him. Krasinski has like a small part in the movie, but I feel like that character needs a much more kind of buoyant, upbeat energy, whereas Reynolds just sort of seems unhappy to be there the entire time.
Yeah, my thing about it is, and I'm a big Ryan Reynolds fan. I love most of the stuff that he does, even stuff like The Hitman's Bodyguard, which are frankly trashy films. They're not particularly well made. I think you can usually look at him and say, he's funny, he's having fun, he has a lot of charisma. And you're absolutely right. I mean, for me, a big Ryan Reynolds fan, to sit here and say to you, he is not funny in this movie. I did not enjoy spending time with his character. I don't know what the point of his character was in the film.
No, I mean, there's an aspect of his character that we can't reveal for the sake of spoilers that I feel like does not...
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work because you're sort of never invested in that character, and that character never seems like he wants to be part of the movie that's going on around him.
Yeah, it's again, I think I keep on going back to the script because I think a lot of this could have been fixed with a smarter script, a script that had thought more about what it wanted to say. And I think that the lack of world building, the lack of interesting characters, the lack of interesting imaginary characters all falls back to that script that just... And the script, by the way, is written by John Krasinski.
Yeah.
And he's a very talented guy. His work on The Office, A Quiet Place 2, both of which he wrote and directed, shows that this is a guy who's capable. And this is not it's not a train wreck of a film by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not all that interesting.
It's just kind of dull and sort of feels all over the place. So
it has no imagination.
Oh, wow. Bravo. You see, you get a gold sticker for that.
Thank you.
Well, next week, Jason, we are going to be discussing one of the most anticipated movies of the year.
Oh my God, I'm so jazzed for this.
Furiosa. We're going to return to the wasteland of George Miller's imagination, someone who I think actually does have an imagination.
I've heard there's a sequence in this where they had 1,000 crew members. They had 1,000 people on the set, not extras, cameramen, grips, all that other kind of stuff, shooting one of the most incredible action sequences of all time.
What a guy. I can't wait to see it. But until that happens, we will see you all at the movies.